Kia ora koutou katoa, talofa lava, malole lei. My name is Cecelia, and I greet you in the languages of my ancestors from Samoa, from Tonga, and from the tangata whenua or indigenous people from Aotearoa, New Zealand, the land in which I was born, raised, and currently reside. Today I'm going to be discussing the idea of asi, the presence of the unseen, and I'm going to outline the methodology that I utilized to expand on this idea of asi in my creative artistic research. My research explores the word asi from my Tongan heritage. Wolfgram explains that asi is the presence of the unseen, and he says that it occurs in the climax of a whaiva or creative performance. However, in Samoan we have the word asiasinga, and this relates to visitation from others or from spirits to raise your spirit when you are ill, feeling down, or needing support. I see asi as a discernible energy that can be felt before, during, and after a creative work, and it resources the energy of artistic practice as a whole. The word whaiva occurs in both Tonga and in Samoa. It means performance in the Tongan language, which has three elements: sound, movement, and poetry. In Samoa, whaiva relates to a skill that someone may possess. However, when that word is split into two and it is whaiva, it means to make space. But it's not just an empty space. We are talking about a relational space where we seek harmony between people so that we are able to relate to each other more positively. This research is a reaction to the alarming increase of depression and decline in mental health in young people in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Therefore, I asked two questions. When young people are working creatively together, how does asi arise? And the second question is, when they are working creatively together, how does asi give them a sense of belonging? I endeavored to answer these two questions by creating two bodies of work. And the first was a co-created work with a group of young people called Laila. The second body of work is a contemporary whaiva that I created called Whaiva Whaiva. These are the students I refer to as the whaiva creatives. I worked with these students on creative activities over the course of 3 years. In 2019, there was a gathering of oceanic scholars that convened to discuss heliaki, or in Tonga that means metaphors, as methodology. This research uses ngatu as a metaphor for its methodology. Ngatu is the Tongan name for decorated bark cloth made from the inner bark of hiapo, or the paper mulberry tree. In Samoa, it is called siapo. To Tongans, it is seen as goloa, or treasures. The process of making ngatu aligns with the way in which this research and the two creative works were developed. There are 5 phases to the methodology, and the first one, do, relates to planting the seed. At this stage, the whaiva creatives were introduced to the idea of creating a student-written and led production performance. Here, I too started thinking deeply on the idea of asi while working with students, reflecting and doing my own work. The second stage, da, refers to gathering and harvesting our ideas. When making ngatu, this relates to the inner bark being separated from the outer bark and softened by soaking in water, then scraping the water out. In terms of the creative work, This is when the Fiverr creatives brought back their individual ideas to the group and put them up on the whiteboard. In terms of the research, this included interviewing cultural experts, youth leaders, and members of the Fiverr creatives. The third stage of the methodology relates to ngaohi and tutu. This is when women start physically beating pieces of bark with a mallet so that they are widened and later joined together. For the Fiverr creatives, this involved reflecting on ideas and going away to develop themes into spoken word pieces that we might join together later. I too went away and reflected in journals on students, my experiences and thoughts on asi and Fiverr. And this is when I too wrote poems and shared them as spoken word pieces. I also did illustrations where I reflected on incidents where I felt asi. In phase 4 of the methodology, here we start joining our ideas and our chosen themes. The Fiverr creatives joined their spoken word pieces together to make a bigger overall narrative, turning it into a script. And then during the rehearsals, the ideas were tested out and performances refined until finally they had an opportunity to present back. As you can see here, gifting back in Tongan culture is an important phase of the methodology. It relates to luva, the act of giving a gift, tatala, opening up the world of wisdom, whetokoni aki, helping each other, which is the same as the Samoan concept of tautua, which is service to others. The Fiverr creatives were able to gift back to their school community a student-led, student-written production called Lila, and it was presented on 2 consecutive nights. So overall, these 6 inputs fed into my research of asi and also helped me to create the second body of work called Fiverr Fiverr. This research brings 4 contributions to knowledge. The first is that asi is discernible before, during, and after a performance, and that it resources connection between creativity, people, identity, and belonging. It is associated with the visitation of a constructive spiritual energy. The second contribution is an evolution of the idea of Fiverr so that it can contain layers of contemporary interpretations of sound, movement, and poetry to make new Fiverr. Thirdly, it offers Ngatu methodology as a new addition to the oceanic research based on heliaki or metaphor. And fourth, the concept of Fiverr can be utilized as a post-disciplinary construct where we might enable greater levels of fluidity and connection while young people are learning at school. There is further research that can be developed for this concept or idea of asi. And I am interested in finding out how asi might function in non-physical online environments. Because during these COVID lockdowns that we've had over the last 2 years, it's brought to light that there are pressures on young people to feel connection in isolation. So having digital spaces where young people can feel connected would also help with their overall health and mental well-being. Thank you so much for listening to me speak about my research. Whaftai te le lava, malo au pito, kia ora.